I'll kick it off now. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for joining this investor presentation. It's obviously a very exciting moment for Broken Hill Mines. We really appreciate the investor support that the company has received to date, and I guess the buy-in on the vision and the plans and the growth plans of Broken Hill Mines. And what we'll be able to show you today is through this equity raise, we're really able to expedite those plans, which is really quite exciting in terms of what we can achieve and the potential value that we can create for shareholders. I'll run through this presentation deck. This is actually available online now. You'll see that today we've announced firm commitments for a $38.5 million capital raise at $1 a share, and I'll run you through what that means corporately shortly. But for now, just give you some background about our plans, what this means for our growth plans, and how we wrap that around. This is a useful slide for context for you, and I'll give you some history about Broken Hill, not because it's sort of a history buff or anything like that. It's important for the context of what we're doing. So Broken Hill, you need to think about as an ore body, as a singular ore body, and simply put, it is the largest and richest silver, lead, zinc ore body in the world by a margin. So sprawls over a sort of 28-kilometre stretch from Pinnacles down in the south, all the way up through into town, which is the main lode or the traditional line of lode ore body, and even 8 kilometres north through to Flying Doctor and Potosi and other deposits. So it's this sort of sprawling mass, a bit like a sine wave that occurs there. Amazing ore body, discovered in 1885, 140 years of continuous mining history, 300 million tonnes at 15% zinc and lead and 300 grams a tonne of silver mined. That's not the resource there, that's what's been mined. Produced north of 1 billion ounces of silver and 50 million tonnes of zinc and lead metal. So a huge ore body that's there. Now, the context there is that when Charles Rast found the ore body in 1885, it wasn't a 300 million tonne ore body. It was a rocky outcrop that he thought was prospective for tin. Ironically, no tin, but full of silver. So what you've seen over 140 years is continuous ore body discovery and growth, and that's important for our context. Is we see no reason why this doesn't go for another 100 years. The ore body, there's a lot of opportunity with exploration, with development, and we can see the resource base is growing. We have a very solid resource base at the moment that will absolutely go up, particularly with what we're announcing today around expanded drilling programs at our two assets. Strategically, we're implementing what's known as a hub and spoke strategy in Broken Hill. So we own the Rast mine, which is this tenement here in the centre of town. The Rast mine has a relatively new 750,000 tonne per annum plant. And when we acquired it from Toho Zinc around 18 months ago, it was only running at about 40% of capacity and off one ore body, relatively low grade. Our strategy from that day has been to increase that capacity, so get it up to its full utilisation of 750,000 tonnes, but bring in other ore sources either on the Rast mining lease and outside of that, including the one we've recently acquired, which is the transaction we have with Pinnacles, a 70-30 operational profit share over what is really the current last known high-grade shallow ore body in Broken Hill. Beautiful ore feed, and by marrying that with our existing operations in Rast, we can now execute a plan to fully utilise our plant and increase the grade that's fed into that as well. So more tonnes and more metal units in those tonnes, obviously, ultimately equals more earnings and lower costs. So that's the sort of the strategy in a nutshell, which is explained further on this next slide here graphically. But yeah, we're really unlocking that value now, and by getting our plant back up to 750,000 tonnes per annum. Quick snapshot for you on our commodity price basket and our price exposure, and it's an interesting day to be announcing this transaction. We've had silver off heavily overnight. Some perspective on that as well is that we have a basket of commodities: silver, lead, zinc, and gold, and a little bit of copper as well. Silver is fundamentally still a fantastic price. Like, to be a producer and selling silver at $48 an ounce. Well, it was off 7% but it's still back to the same price it was 2 weeks ago. So you've still got ridiculously good silver and precious metal, silver and gold prices at the moment. And to be a producer and to give investors immediate exposure into what are effectively all-time high prices is wonderful. Ultimately means that increased revenue. And ultimately what we're doing is we're actually increasing that exposure to silver and to gold as well in our commodity portfolio. So we are currently mining just the western mineralization at the Ras mine. But 2 weeks ago, we announced Main Lode, the new ore source that's come online that we've been working on over the last 12 months as well. And in the very near term, we see the Pinnacles mine coming back online as well. So you can see that portfolio, that basket of commodities does change over time, and we actually increase our exposure to silver and also to gold as well. Looking now at the capital raise itself, so as I said today, we announced a $38.5 million commitment, raised that money at $1 a share. We are immensely supportive and thankful of new shareholders coming in. Particularly, we've seen a lot of strong interest from domestic and international institutions, which is great considering our IPO was only 12 weeks ago. We had relatively little institutional support at that stage. And that's purely because we were an unknown company. But yeah, we're seeing really good interest levels from there, and we think that'll grow over time as we grow our value proposition. Now, importantly, what are we doing with these funds? These funds are going all into growth projects. So you're seeing, first thing we're looking at doing is high-grade drilling at the Ras mine. So our Main Lode ore body, which is that second ore body that we've just got online, we're going to be really expanding that. So there'll be lots of news flow about drill results, but ultimately that will flow in to resource upgrades and tons that we can mine today. So this is not, if we build a plant or if we get this approval piece in, or we raise 300 million, we'll then get to that point where we can mine this material. These tons are going into a hungry plant today. So really, really valuable to be doing this drilling and growing that resource. And it's the same story at Pinnacles. 25,000 metre resource drilling program there. We'll be expanding the existing resource base, and we'll also be testing for new resources in those areas as well. So we're really seeing some great opportunities there, and we gave the site visit attendees sort of a first-hand view of the potential of Pinnacles. When we were there, we had some great site visits last week, and we've got some more coming up in November. The other thing about Pinnacles is it's not currently online. So we're not producing from it, but we want that third ore body online feeding into the Ras plant. And so we're accelerating that development process. So we have an open pit opportunity there, restarting the open pit operations, and also eventually a big high-grade underground operation there too. But we think we can turn that open pit on a lot faster than what we thought, and particularly with this funding that allows that. And the final sort of growth use of the funds as well is around a tailings dewatering facility. Really what that enables us to do is to fully utilise our Ras plant. It's currently limited to about 500,000 tonnes per annum, and that's just on the basis of surface trucking movements that we can do. By eliminating the existing solar drying facility, we'll put in a conventional tailings dewatering facility, gets us back to 750,000 tonnes per annum capacity. So obviously we don't need that today, but ultimately as we bring Pinnacles online and we ramp that up as well, we're definitely going to need those tonnes. We're going to want those tonnes in there. Before I jump into what we're doing at RASP and then what we're doing at Pinnacles in detail, I'll just give you a little updated snapshot of where the business is at off the back of this raising there. So you can see the new pro forma there as well, capped at about $300 million. Obviously, really good cash. We still have around $15 million of available debt facilities if we choose to use them on top of that as well. So we're in a really strong position now to execute growth plans. We're not coming back to the market for any of this stuff. We can actually get the Pinnacles mine online. We can go and get our RASP mine ramped up as well and have that really strong news flow, really strong growth in production and flow through to earnings as well. So yeah, we've got a great position, a great platform to grow from now as well. So let's dive now into the RAS mine and what we're doing here. And this is a great picture. So this picture was taken last week. And And this is literally the you're at the face here in terms of the underground or the main lode development of Blackwoods there. And I think about half an hour after this picture was taken, the team was back in there mining away and taking it away, so it wouldn't even exist anymore. So cutting 300 odd tons a day of this stuff at the moment. Really high grade, beautiful stuff. I'll give you a little overview of the Ras mine itself and some context. So you can see the white outline here. We are right in the center of Broken Hill, in the center of town. This white outline is the mining lease CML7 that we own. Now, on CML7, there's actually two ore bodies. You have Western Min, technically Centenary as well, that sits below it. They're possibly the same ore body, but you have this Western Min ore body here, and then running parallel to that, you have main lode or the high-grade line of lode ore body there as well. Now, Western Min is the only ore body that has actually been mined at the Ras mine for the last 15 odd years. So relatively low grade, runs sort of 7-8% zinc equivalent, which by global standards is actually pretty good. But in comparison to line of lode, which runs sort of 20% plus zinc equivalent, and I should mention this difference in silver is about 40 grams at Western Min versus north of 150 grams in resource at main lode and growing. You can see that there's always been a historical preference to mine main lode, even though Western Min has been known about for about 50 or 60 years. Anyway, for the last 15 years, it's only been Western Min. Our plan when we took over the asset was to change that. And so we invested heavily. We got burn cut in, and we did 1,000 meters of underground development, which you can see here in red, which looks tiny, but trust me, there's 1,000 meters, or tick over 1,000 meters of underground development there. And that's provided an incline-decline structure to link up main lode back and to get it up and running again for the first time since the mid-1970s. So a great time to be ramping up an operation and bringing on really high-grade feed into our plant, obviously additional tons and additional grade. So we now have access to this ore body, and we can effectively daisy chain our production up the ore body as well while we're growing the resource base. You could argue that, the resource looks small. It's, less than 1 million tons, and yes, the grades are great. The reality is no one's touched this since 1974 from an underground operation. So no one's ever bothered to put it into JORC. We know of whole lenses of main lode material, which have got historical reports written up about them. You can literally walk up the adits and touch and feel them. And so part of this drilling that we're doing at the moment, or we're going to launch the 17,000 meter drilling program, is we're going to be quote unquote discovering these resources or putting them into JORC, so then we can start to talk about them as well. So you'll see that main lode resource continue to grow, and obviously we're mining it now as well. So yeah, great feed, but ultimately lots of growth in these high grade numbers. So as I said, main lode is now online. That's the first sort of ore body or Blackwoods, I should say, is the first ore body in that main lode strategy there. We are feeding this material in today, and you can see there's further high-grade material in there as well from British, Northern Boundary Pillar, Wilson's. And the other important context here is main lode, and Blackwoods in particular, is shallow. We're talking about a starting depth of 200 meters. When we acquired the Ras mine off Toho, the ore body there at Western Min was being mined at about 650 to 700 meters. Now, we've actually subsequently found more ore a little bit shallower as well. But in comparison, you're getting at Blackwoods, you're getting a really shallow ore body, so lower trucking movements, lower costs, and a much higher grade ore body as well. So multiple benefits coming from the work that really, as a private company, we did most of that work. So we started this process last October. Now, we only listed in July this year. So October 24, we started, burn cut started the development. We only listed in July, and yes, 2-3 months later, we're announcing main lodes online. Well, all the work had been done, or the majority of the work had been done. We'll take those benefits now. So as I said, you can see this is where we're mining. We're starting up here. Apologies, you can't sort of see the inner, but we're driving into this high-grade material right now. And you can see some examples of it here. High-grade silver, sort of hundreds of grams a ton silver. If zinc equivalent is your flavor, you're 30 to 62% there. You can see some of the examples. And and 2,100 grams a ton on a silver equivalent basis. Really, really beautiful stuff. Lots of opportunities for extension as well. Really hasn't had sort of modern exploration techniques put over it. Lots of opportunity for remnant mining to occur as well. And really that'll probably be the story of Main Lode as we, over the course of 2025 and 2026, we'll be able to drill it, really expand the high grade material while we're mining it as well and enjoying the good prices. The other thing that can't be understated here, what we acquired with RASP, is infrastructure or sunk capital, which is really what attracted us to RASP in the first place as a strategy. Fundamentally, someone else had taken on all the risk and spent all the money to produce that first ton of material. So if you think about it, you know, discovering an ore body and then trying to get it online and raising the finances, getting the approvals, building your plant, commissioning it, all of that goes into producing the first ton. That first ton is the highest risk ton of any mine in the world. The second ton is infinitely easier to produce because you've done all that. So for us to be able to acquire an operating mine that didn't miss a beat, it didn't shut down. We inherited a workforce of about 120 people, no layoffs. We just kept it all going. In fact, obviously we're ramping it up. Is really valuable. It can't really be understated about how valuable that is. Toho had also recently put in a brand new portal and decline, spent about $20 million doing that. They also left behind about 424 half-height shipping containers worth about $6 million, which we export all of our concentrate in as well. And, you know, a brand new plant, or sorry, a 12-year-old plant, I should say, as well. And you think about that's a plant in the center of Broken Hill. You've got grid power, water, 98, 99% residential workforce. You could put a 7 iron into the post office from the plant. I mean, you've got a beautiful centralized plant there. This is not remote at all. And obviously Western New South Wales, tier 1 jurisdiction for mining in general. As I said, the tailings operation is something that we're evolving. Currently, there's a solar drying practice in place there, which fundamentally is a total waste of money. You know, basically you pick the tailings come out of the back of the plant, you throw them out on the ground in one of the old pits, dry them out, pick them back up, and you put them back into what is known as the Kintor pit or the TSF3, which has oodles of capacity. Just have to dry the tailings out there. So for Broken Hill Mines, which has a much longer term view of the RAS mine versus what Toho had, we're making that investment into that conventional tailings dewatering facility. And so we can eliminate that solar drying requirement, which ultimately saves quite a lot of unit costs in terms of its OPEX, but it also allows us to get our production up as well, back to 750,000 tonnes per annum, because while the solar drying is going on, we're really limited to about 500,000 tonnes per annum. The plant itself, as I said, it's beautiful, really simple operation, as Broken Hill metallurgy has been for forever and a day. Coarse grind flotation at about 200 microns, and you produce a nice lead product. All the silver and the gold reports into the lead product, and then you produce a really clean zinc product in there as well. Absolute industry standard recoveries, sort of high 80s for zinc and lead, and you get mid 70s for silver. Do we think there's upside there? Absolutely. Has it ever really been optimized and tested? I would argue no. From what we've seen to date, there's opportunities for incremental gains in recoveries, and let's see that play out over time. The team's on that as we speak. In terms of how we sell the concentrate, we put it into half-height shipping containers. As I said, we put it on the rail and we sell it. We could send it down to the Port of Adelaide, put it on ships, just dump the half-heights into the bulk export ships, send it anywhere in the world. We can also send it to the Port Pirie lead smelter. We don't actually do that at the moment. And the only reason we don't do that is we've got much better terms selling it internationally as well. The concentrate quality here is worth noting. So zinc con, really good quality, 50% zinc, no deleterious elements whatsoever. The lead con is special though, 65% lead, running 800 grams a ton silver. Now the context there is that 800 grams a ton silver is based on production from the Western Min ore body only, 40 grams a ton in the feed. As we bring on Main Lode and Pinnacles, which have north of 150 grams a ton in the feed, that silver content in the lead con will be going to nearly 2 kilos a ton. which is really the sort of super premium product analogous to Cannington, which is an incredibly special mine in Queensland as well. So what does that sort of mean, the quality of your concentrates? Well, right now, probably doesn't mean much. You could sell anything right now because there's so much demand. You've got zinc stockpiles that they haven't been this low since 2023. Lead TCs are still negative. The last spot deal we did on lead was more than negative $100 a ton in terms of its treatment charge, which is just an incredible time to be growing and ramping up your operations there. But we also know that when these markets are cyclical, when times get tough, you want to have the best quality product. You want to have the highest grade in your ore body, and you want to have the best quality product to be able to sell to the market, because it will always sell first and it will always get the best terms in there as well. So we're very well protected in that regard. So conscious of time, I want to keep everyone to before market open. That's RASP. RASP is the engine room of our business, and it will grow. We have 2 ore bodies now online as of just a couple of weeks ago. But really, the really interesting, fascinating equity story here is around this Pinnacles mine. And you can see from this picture here, it's quite a telling picture. It looks like a rough and ready operation, but what you're seeing here is actually really special. The Williams family is a private, notable Broken Hill mining family, have owned this mine since 1954, so 75 odd years. All by themselves, what they've achieved is remarkable. This is a 50-meter deep open pit here. You can see this head frame here. That's a shaft that goes down about 100 meters, and there's 4 levels there. In the background here, you can see a processing plant. Small, it's only about 30,000 tons per annum. But this was hand built. There's no engineers, there's no consultants or anything here. This is one family, the sweat off their own back here. It's amazing what they've been able to achieve here. And really from that, the realization maybe over the last decade for the Williams family has been, they've been just mining the tip of the iceberg for 75 years at Pinnacles. It's really growing, and they need a bigger plant. Craig Williams said to me famously when we first met him, he said, if I keep mining this the way I am, I'll be here for 300 years. So Craig needs a bigger plant, and his family needs a bigger plant. Fortunately, in town, we've obviously just acquired the RAS mine, which is hungry for feed. So we built the relationship with the family over a period of time, and the deal got struck there where it's a 70-30 operational profit share. So we do all the ops at Pinnacles going forward. We run it, or we feed all of that ore into our plant, and just the profits associated with the Pinnacles mine are shared 70-30 between the Williams family and Broken Hill Mines itself. Now, the fascinating part about Pinnacles is it's such a developed mine. It's really, but in the market size, it's probably a discovery, but it's sort of a discovery 100 years in the making. It is a huge ore body that no one knows anything about. Case in point, before Broken Hill Mines came along, there'd been 55,000 meters of drilling at the Pinnacles mine, and not a single meter had ever been publicly released. And we started to release those results earlier this year. And you can see this. These are some of the first grades we actually released from the ore body. These drilling hits, first of all, are literally underneath the old plant that's there. And the plant will just get scrapped. It's too small and it's old now, so everything's going into town, about 15 kilometers away. So these are underneath the old plant. Craig and his family actually drilled these several years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, prior to our involvement. What's amazing here is they drilled 3,000 meters of core and didn't even assay the core. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's wild. Why would you drill and not bother assaying the core? And it gives you a realization of how this mine has been run. It's really been run like a sort of early 1900s mine, and I mean that in an endearing way, isn't it? Craig and his family are such good miners. They can see the mineralization. They don't need to know what the assay is. It's 10, 12, 14, 18% equivalent. It doesn't matter. They can see it. They're going to go and mine it. So we released this data for the first time ever, which is truly staggering results. First of all, you look at some of the depths, 11, 18, 63 meters. This is all shallow, open pittable material. And then the grades are absolutely off the charts. So you're talking up to sort of 800-900 grams a ton straight silver. On an equivalent basis, you can see there, and on a zinc equivalent basis, you can see there as well. Really high grade, shallow ore body, on mining leases, 15 kilometers from our own plant, which is hungry. and needs this stuff in there. So we've started drilling. We've only released 12 holes from our first campaign, which I think is now north of about 50 holes in itself. And today we've just announced that on top of this 6,000 meter drilling program, which is nearly finished, we're going to launch a 25,000 meter program. So we're not stopping. This will be drilled forever and a day because the resource will keep expanding forever and a day. It is a huge resource, and we feel like we're only just touching the edges of it. Lots of work being done out on the greater ML area. Lots of opportunity to grow it from what is already an impressive mineral endowment that we will show. So really great news flow, high-grade results coming through. You can see from some of these pretty pictures. For us, what's important though is, we could just keep drilling this thing and think we're wonderful and look at these high-grade results and you sort of put a picture up on a wall. But as I said, we've got a plant in town that wants this feed, and we've got record metal prices. You've got silver prices, which they've come off overnight. They're still 20% up on what they were last quarter. $48 an ounce is an outrageous price. Zinc price is on a tear, $1.45 a pound. It's up about, I think, 10% on last quarter in itself. So you're getting really strong prices at the moment. To be a producer right now is great, is so great. Like being a developer, wonderful. Talking a big story and having ounces in the ground, that's great. But making money today out of the current prices is what you want to be doing. You never know where they're going to go. Never a better time to be a producer in play. So that's why we want to get Pinnacles online and have it as our third ore body feeding in and high grade feed. So this open pit that we're seeing here, we're going to really aggressively expand that opportunity or grow that opportunity to make that a reality. And we sort of see maybe as a gold medal result here, if we can produce 1 ton of Pinnacles ore before mid next year, mid 2026, that's a win for us. So we obviously try and beat that and grow it better, but we know that, again, producing that first ton is the hardest because the second ton's coming right behind it. So that's sort of our goal. Alongside all of this drilling, it's happening at Pinnacles, it's happening at RASP and the growth at RASP. Our goal is to get that third ore body online as well. So yeah, really exciting time for our business. I really thank all of our new shareholders, all of our current shareholders as well, for their support during what's a great capital raise for the business. But from here, our story is only just starting, and the pedal's kind of to the floor now because we want to be producing more and taking advantage of these great high prices. So thanks very much for listening, and more importantly, thanks very much for being part of the Broken Hill Mine story. And keep watching out for the news flow because it's coming. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.